Welcome everyone to Managing Madness with Adrian.
And Carolyn.
Awesome. So today we'll be kind of discussing adult friendships. Last time we discussed how we met each other, and today we'll kind of just be continuing into adult friendships, but much more. And it also plays out into our own friendship of first knowing each other in the same city, then Carolyn moves around everywhere. I can't say I moved anywhere since our entire
I know you're
friendship.
still in the same apartment.
Yeah, so I'm still literally in the same place. So again, the opposite, but just the challenges of uh, maintaining adult friendships and how that looks for both of us. So since you actually have friends, do you want to share more about that? What
I
does
know
that
one of
actually
my
look like?
yeah. So I'll take it from here.
Sign
No,
now, everyone. Thank you. Good.
yeah, talk to you later. No, one of my friends actually just made fun of me. Not really made fun of me, but was like, "You literally keep up with everybody you know and like actually know what's going on in their life," which I do not really think is true. But I think it goes back to, and I've spoken about this before in other episodes, like my parents modeled having friends so well. So even though we did move around a lot, I have been in Colorado Springs for 11 years. Okay.
No, that is huge.
That's big for me. But we moved around a lot growing up, and my parents were always really quick to get connected to friends. So they traveled with friends, they went on double dates with friends, they had parties with friends. It just was like their norm. So I think that was a big part of it, is I saw it modeled well. And then even when we moved, my parents would keep in touch with people. I think it speaks to, like, my parents have my mom talks every Tuesday to her best friend from middle school. Like, they have a standing date
Wow.
every Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah. And she's in her 70s. And then my dad, before he passed away right after his 70th birthday, but we had a surprise party for him. And even his college roommate drove into town to see him.
Right, I remember that from another
So
episode.
yeah. So yeah, I think a big part of it was just modeled, and it's kind of like shooting me in the foot now, because my daughter sees my friendships and sees my friends, and that's what she's desperate for right now. And she's like, I just want to have a friend like you and friends like you have. But I really, even though I had friends through elementary school, my like core group didn't really form until middle school. And two of them, one of them I still talk to every week. One of them
From middle school as well? Okay, wow.
yeah, and she lives in Sweden, but
Oh,
we
okay,
talk
that's the one.
every week. Yeah. And then the other two, I could call them right now and they would answer, and we'd pick up like no time has gone by,
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I like people, but I also really like being by myself. So it gets a little complicated.
I can't imagine you having time to be by yourself much.
I can't either.
That's wild. As you're speaking though, I do have still two friends from middle school. So to me, the reason why I think this is also an interesting topic between us, because your friendships are far more involved. Like me saying friends is like I'm still cool with people, but like I really don't know what's happening much in their life. And
Yeah.
that maybe speaks more on me being a poor friend. But kind of on that, maybe that's why I don't have many friends. No, but
Yeah.
a lot of it
But that's
too.
not true. I
No,
think
yeah,
you're a really good friend.
yeah. Well, thank you. Um, when you're in another state, I'm great.
Yeah.
It's when you have
He
to deal
does
with me.
keep
No,
sending,
no.
he keeps sending
But
texts like, good talk, because I am not very good about responding to texts, I'll tell you that.
yes, I do have kind of a conversation with myself in our text.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a lot of it, honestly, and just going as this podcast really is about challenges. A lot of it has been in my past, just with my anxiety and depression, one thing I specifically remember saying is I've had to burn bridges to stay warm for the winter.
Hmm.
And it's something that kind of just like came up, but I've been told like you don't have to be so whatever, like because I can be kind of aggressive on certain positions and things like that. And it's like take care of those bridges, don't burn bridges and things like that. But sometimes I have been so emotionally overwhelmed or just filled with anxiety or whatever, just not at how I want to show up ultimately, that has cost a lot of friendships in the past. And it is a lot of too where, as we've discussed, I don't think I saw it modeled as well. So like to me, like I don't even know like what to talk about most of the time. Like I don't know if you remember I hosted I think it was like a poker party where we had like people playing poker around the rooms for like different buy-ins and things like that.
Okay.
But you and a mutual friend of ours wanted to call me SA because I was so socially awkward. Do you remember why you wanted to call me socially awkward?
No.
Because I
I'm
was
also
serving...
a really good friend, clearly.
Yeah. Well, you were at least keeping it amongst you and another mutual friend.
Okay. Okay.
But you didn't say it because it was SA and you didn't want to sound like you were culturally appropriate.
The race. Okay, but what did you do? Why did I want to call you?
I was serving biscuits at the party.
Here's the thing. Through college, I would go to like full-on college parties and bring monkey bread.
Okay, the monkey bread is really good. So, but okay. So now, as we're discussing that in context too, then why was I awkward for serving my buttermilk biscuits?
Why was I giving you a hard time about biscuits? Why didn't I just eat one?
I know no one but one person. I still remember them. That was a true homie. Only one other person said, "Yeah, I'd love a biscuit," and grabbed a biscuit and ate a biscuit.
I would have loved a biscuit. Was there butter involved?
I may have. They were the flaky Jake butter flavored ones. I don't know if I actually had real butter on deck for that one.
Okay, on deck.
But I had
why did I give you a hard time about biscuits when I love bringing monkey bread to, full-on parties?
Well, yeah, I would have appreciated your monkey bread. That's
right.
It is really good.
Does everybody hear my cat? I love that this is called Managing Madness. There's no management of anything anywhere.
Well, as my cat calmly lays on my lap right now.
I'm like, where's my cat stuck?
So yes, monkey bread and biscuits. That's what we're
I feel like that's like how you win people over. I don't know why I gave you a hard time about that.
Yeah, I know.
I apologize. Please always serve me biscuits when I come.
And never serve the biscuit ever again at a party.
How many parties have you had since then?
I haven't sort of party. That may be accurate. I'm not 100% sure because I do want to be honest on this podcast, but that may be accurate that I may have not thrown a party since. I need to think about that. No, I really it was, I think my first and second year, I really just kind of threw a couple things and then that was it.
That was it.
Fell into depression and bye people. But that's where it's a lot of going back to kind of friendships and managing those. I know that has been a big barrier for me as far as keeping friendships long term has been that depression, things like that. As we've discussed, it's also just tough being in different stages of life where we've talked about past episodes of parenting and things like that, where a lot of my friends are parents. So a lot of that has to be coordinated where I don't like planning. And that's really hard.
And I still kind of function like a toddler because I nap almost every day. So I have to plan my events around my naps. It's bad when even my kids' friends will text, I know your mom's napping right now. Or I know it's your mom's nap time, but when she wakes up, can you ask if we can play? So
at least you're consistent. You have a consistent nap time.
Yeah. It's usually like 3:30 to 4:30 is my preference.
Oh, that's good.
I know, I love it. Something that you said made me think of something though with friends. Seasons. Oh yeah, I think we had
Seasons.
spoken to this about or stages. In one of the episodes before too of I have a cousin of mine who's been single essentially her whole life. At least in the like never been married or in like a long-term relationship since I've been alive. And she's in her 70s now, but she always mentioned that 30s and 40s were the hardest of managing friendships because like in her singleness and not having kids, while all of her friends it felt like were at least married and most also raising kids, but you know obviously our kids grow up and we get to different places where we have more time, but yeah, so and that is also a connector, right? Like a majority of my friends do have kids, but a big chunk of my close friends don't have kids and aren't married. Like like my friend in Sweden, I mean, she has a partner who has kids now, so she has kids half the time. But my like two of my best friends here, the ones that I spend the majority of my time with, neither one of them have kids. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you think that is? I was gonna say just because they're accommodating of your naps, but no, it was
Yeah.
more so because they're able to like kind of fit around your schedule where other parents,
Yeah,
like your other
maybe.
parent friends, are those always have to be like scheduled?
We've pulled some pretty impromptu stuff, but they typically are scheduled. And let's be honest, I typically schedule them
Mm.
because I am a planner. I like planning. I like knowing what's going to happen. So, anyways, yeah. I mean, friends send me like posts that they see of things they want to do and say, "Can you please put this on our agenda?"
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Have you ever fallen out with friends?
I have had one major falling out with a friend. Um, and in that, like, I mean, I've had like friends that I've like grown apart with, but it hasn't ever been like hard or, what's the word? Like super negative or, and except for one particular friend. And it was, I mean, this will kind of go into another episode that we have, but it was over her theological differences. She did not feel that I should continue being friends with friends that were gay. So that was her big. So her husband called, I mean, in the process of becoming my ex husband, but called him and said that he was like leading me into sin, allowing me to be friends with these people. And, anyways, yeah, so she's the one who totally blocked all contact. So that's the one. I've had like hard conversations with friends or like times that I've hurt friends' feelings or they've hurt mine and we've had to walk through that. But I also feel like as you become an adult, a lot of that, I don't know, maybe part of it's like we don't want to be vulnerable and have those hard conversations. And we also are to the point we can like assume positive intentions and know we aren't being like purposely hurt or ignored or whatever. Obviously that I think should be different like in intimate relationships. You know, you don't want any of that resentment to build. But with friendships, I feel like it's easy enough to know that we all have stuff going on, right? We're all in different places. I mean, I feel like post COVID, particularly, has really magnified and brought to light mental health issues and awareness. And yeah, we just are at different capacities with different things.
Well, that really got me thinking because I feel it's a topic more discussed now post 2020, primarily around like politics,
Yeah.
and that really severing because a lot of, I mean, you mentioned religion being a thing. I know that's something that has interfered with a lot of my friendships, me not being
Mhm.
religious and me holding some kind of firm stances on
Mhm.
religion.
Mhm.
Um, and that kind of coming out, I feel a lot more these last years. But it's interesting for me because I wouldn't take those conversations back because a lot of those though are so core to who I am and my values.
Right.
Uh,
And that's interesting. I was just talking to a friend about this yesterday, just in light of the election coming up and like, how are we in this same place 4 years later? But also like recognizing, yeah, things have gotten a lot messier and a lot more divisive, but can things truly change if people are just pretending things are okay, or like not acknowledging these like huge rifts? And no, and all the things, I mean, extremism on both sides, I feel like, is the minority. The problem is that minority is so loud, um, that it becomes really, but I mean, even a majority of my friends are Christian. I am very liberal in as far as like Christian beliefs and practices. And I'm certain there are some that would even question my faith or my Christianity. But I mean, even like when we're with friends' kids, you know, they'll make comments about who they want to be president. And my kids are like, no. And I'm like, you know what? Sometimes it's just best not to talk about politics. But I also want them to learn how to do it in a way, but like they're 8, 11, and 17. Do the 17-year-old probably could be informed and, you know, have an argument where he's kind of wrestled with his own understanding of it. But I also don't want my kids to just regurgitate my beliefs because it's what I believe, you know? I don't know.
um, and I definitely do think it is different for kids because, like you mentioned, a lot of it is regurgitation of what they ultimately hear. Um, as we just discussed, they don't have the brain capacity. Their cortex is
Right,
not fully formed to really make those deeper connections. But
right.
going back to these adult conversations, um, I don't know, and I don't because I know we're really different. Where for me, I think it has been very important to have a lot of those conversations with people so that I do kind of know where they are on a lot of things. A lot of those
Mhm.
positions, because I'm just thinking a lot. I mean, for me, a lot of them are like choice, taking choice away from people,
You're
taking the
right.
identity away from people. That's what, a lot of uh, counter arguments to a lot of my views look like. Um, I think it has been important because for me, it's really, really difficult to have friendships that just exist on a surface level,
Yeah.
where it is just, you know, talking about the daily, sports and things like that.
Weather.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
weather.
and it is hard to have like a depth of a relationship when there is such a difference of like ideologies or belief systems. So, but I think, I mean, I go back to like you and I, that even though we have like such different faith perspectives, I also wasn't raised in the church. So it was not like a huge part of my identity growing up. Like we went to church on Christmas and Easter, you know, that was like the extent of it. So I became a Christian in college and then kind of, you know, like did the typical like zealot phase. And then as like the last 25 years have gone on, have like really, again, like what I just spoke to, I'm in my group of friends, very liberal, very progressive, borderline about to lose my salvation, I'm sure. um, but but when we look at like the root of what motivates us and like equipping people, calling out the best in people, like self-improvement, self-awareness, like growth, you know, trying to equip youth to make choices that aren't fully dependent on their experiences, you know, to show them there's something different. Like those are still really huge driving forces in both of our lives, even though there might be this difference in, but I don't know, but I also go to like, I am not this, I'm not going to cut people off because of their belief system. I love learning from people and hearing from people. And that's one of the things I miss most about my dad is he was way more conservative than I am. And I mean, obviously like an older white male, but getting to like interact with him and engage with him on conversations, particularly through 2020 and 2021, when so much of the racism came to light. I don't think it was necessarily better or worse than it had been. I just think it was finally being acknowledged. Yeah. And like in horrible ways too, right? The loss of life. But I mean, people are losing lives every day because of their race and gender and sexuality, anyways, not at all to take away from those that lost their lives through that time, because I spent a lot of time just thinking, crying, feeling like so like I'm praying for you. Like, how does this help? Like, who is this comforting? Like, why aren't we like shifting things here? Anyways, la-di-da-di-da. My dad and I would just have really good conversations where even when I would call him out on things or question things, he would like get off the phone and like research stuff and then call me back and be like, oh, you were right about this, So again, kind of going back to like my parents modeling growth and awareness and ownership, and just how huge that has been in my life.
No, definitely. And I do think that is kind of important on being able to have those common grounds where I definitely am able to, where I've done that a lot more in the past with surface level conversations, but I'm trying to learn to do that more on those deeper conversations because I can acknowledge honestly that in the past, a lot of my discussions were often to win.
Yeah.
That was a concept that I had in my head, was that I was going to win this argument or discussion or debate. That was more important than the maintenance of the friendship many times. And I'm trying to shift that.
Yeah. Yeah. When our intention going in is to like learn or gain awareness, we might not ever understand, where people are coming from or their experience, but to try to like see the heart behind it, especially if you respect them as a person. I feel like it gets really challenging when you don't really respect them as a person and their views are totally like misaligned with yours. That becomes a harder, lost quite a few like Facebook acquaintances through the years.
And I think another component they're bringing up is, so I definitely classify myself as an introvert. It's also hard to make friends when you're at home.
Yeah. Yeah. Why aren't they coming to you? It's very unfortunate.
I mean, I keep getting cats. That's the only thing that keeps coming my way. Our cats.
Mine try to leave. So.
I remember one meme someone shared, and it was the need to go out and establish friendships for the sake of my depression is at constant odds with my anxiety. But staying in and feeding into my depression is really bad for the
and the isolation.
It's like I can go outside, but that makes me really anxious. Or I stay inside and stay depressed.
I get really depressed.
So
that is really hard. And not to we're like laughing about it, but that's a really serious battle that I know a lot of people face. And I think so many of us, walking through my 11-year-old daughter's friendship dynamics right now, so many of us just feel so isolated and so alone and so like, I'm the only one that's going through this. My daughter's having to walk through her dad and I's separation and me dating someone, but in her mind, she is like the only 11-year-old that is going through this. So I probably need to find her like a divorce group or something, but Um, anyway, I just feel like humans in general, we so much do that to ourselves of thinking we're the only one that whatever
Yeah.
our thought process is, or I don't know why.
Right.
Why?
I mean, we only know ourselves. That's the
Yeah.
only experience we have in our existence. Not to be too brainy, but our mind having that negative bias. So always kind of thinking about that negative aspect for the sake of how we can protect ourselves in the long term. Um, but it kind of goes to why we, wanted to even do this podcast and why I do discuss some of the things I do, because it's even come into therapy. And sometimes when I share these things, I do get anxiety about them because I kind of the one also editing these videos, so I have to
Yeah.
listen back to myself say these things, and I'm like, ooh, like I wish I wouldn't say so many things sometimes.
Wish I
Um,
wouldn't serve biscuits. Always, always serve
I
biscuits.
know now I'm really craving biscuits too, by the way, since the beginning of this podcast. But also kind of why we discussed even starting this podcast with just the two different dynamics of ours is so that hopefully people out there don't feel so alone in their
Hmm.
life, that there are, other people out there who have struggled in the past, struggling now with different things,
Hmm.
and kind of putting some of these stories out there so that hopefully people can understand. Yeah, because in just very much that can be an episode as far as someone, doing interviews with someone maybe with a divorce who can, have that, and now we have that out. And not that there's no other media out there about divorce
Right.
or anything like that, but just having these conversations in this context where a lot of this, and we do want to kind of hear, feedback and everything, but we are trying to keep this very um
Personal, like what's
yeah,
applicable to us. Yeah.
personable, realistic. Like we're
Yeah.
both busy, we both have other jobs, so not something that is like overly produced. We don't come in this with like these scripts. We have topics. I have a topic typically. I let Carolyn know what the topic is.
And maybe I'll read my text and maybe I
Sometimes,
won't.
yeah. But this really authentic piece so that hopefully people can see, the struggling end of also doing this not perfectly.
Yeah.
Um, and that going into, yeah, with the friendships and then sharing how in the past, for me, it has been, my depression has interfered a lot with, uh, making friendships. I mean, my anxiety interferes immensely because, I mean, that keeps me from going outside. But when I go outside, most parties, when I've looked back at pictures, I'm holding an animal. If I can find an animal at a party, I am happy because
Yeah.
then
Well,
that's
I'm
all
sure
I'm.
it helps when your friends are just trying to nickname you socially awkward. That probably really
Yeah,
boosts the
true.
confidence.
Yeah.
Terrible. See, why do I even have friends?
See, yeah. um, but that's always been my like go-to is if there's an animal, I'm gonna be playing with the animal.
Yeah.
Um, but
I
also
got
like,
lots of those here. Come on over.
yeah, see, but okay, they're not as helpful for making the friends.
Yeah, true, true.
So that's where this comes back to the, full circle where, anxiety definitely is, a huge barrier to making those like connections because then we go into just my own awkwardness and neurodivergence and things like that where I don't know how a lot of those conversations are supposed to play out. Like I can keep a general, neutral conversation, but if someone gets mentioned something that really excites me, I lose
That's what,
focus of
yeah.
yeah, of
The
how I'm
bigger
supposed to
picture, like,
manage that excitement or how I'm supposed to like not geek out on it or something like that, which just kind of happens. And then that's
yeah.
where it's just like, oh, yeah, I forgot people don't do the things I
Yeah.
do. But in that same light, what I think is also another interesting component that I want to bring to light is a lot of the people I connect with most end up being people who have similar challenges as I do.
Hmm.
And in that same respect, if I'm going through a depression, it's hard to keep that friendship manage.
Yeah.
But if
And
they also go
yeah.
through depression, there's that like constant like challenge of keeping some of those friendships together. Similarly, with a lot of friends that I have who deal with anxiety,
Hmm.
we can text well, we can Facebook well, but getting even on a phone call may be too anxiety inducing for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Why? Yeah, I'm like going at all these things. I'm like, oh my gosh, being a person is hard.
it really is.
It is.
As we eventually kind of have an episode for like empathy for kids, that's where I think
Hmm.
it's really difficult because, as you said, you got to see people develop, your parents develop friendships in person, what they had to do to develop friends in person.
Yeah.
A lot of our peers are friends at work, friends through Facebook, things like that now.
Yeah.
So if their kids aren't seeing how to connect in
Yeah.
person, it's going to be
Yeah.
much
Or
harder
even
for them
phone
to.
call. I mean, even like when I tell my daughter, like, call your dad, and she'll like start sending a text. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like, call, answer the phone. I mean, I can't tell you, our front office staff, the amount of students they had to teach how to use a phone. Like, even, like pick it up to dial. They're like, what do we do with the buttons? And it's
Yeah.
like, you push them. And then afterwards, they're like, my dad just hung up. We're like, that was a voicemail. Like, and now you leave a voicemail, and they're like holding the phone. What do I do next? We're like, you put it back. But like, legitimately did not know how to do that. I mean, and even my kids don't really, one's calling right now, know how to like answer a phone. They're like, what? And I'm like, no, no, no. Like, I know you know who this is, but you could at least say like, hi, mom.
But I mean, what is a reasonable thing to reply via text? Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's interesting because it is going to be even more challenging for that generation to understand how
Yeah.
to. And then I mean, we had a whole 2 years of having to really distance from each other,
Yeah.
and that had to be something we learned. So even bringing that
And then the
aspect.
kids that were like, should have been in preschool during that time. And there's so many social things that are learned during that time, or kindergarten, and how long that's going to impact the educational system.
And I mean, even as we're discussing preschoolers, but as we're discussing 40-year-olds as well, I
Mm-hmm.
think I forgot how to interact with people after the pandemic. Like, I got
Yeah.
so used to, I really enjoyed wearing a mask.
Yeah.
I was one of
My
the people.
daughter did too. My
Yeah,
daughter did too.
I really
To
enjoyed
not
wearing a
have
mask.
to, yeah.
And I could wear my headphones, and I could just be in my own world, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to smell any
And it was like
awkward things.
appreciated,
Yeah,
right?
loved
Like you
it.
were
Yeah,
honoring people's health.
yeah. Someone farted around me, I smelled it less. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was
Smell your
great.
breath though.
Yeah. Well, that's why that was honestly my opinion as to why people were so anti-mask.
Yeah.
y'all
Yeah.
figured
Well,
out y'all
brush
didn't
your
brush.
teeth. Yeah.
It's like, but that's what I was like. As long as I brushed my teeth, that was good. I had
Yeah.
no. But that's where a lot of it I did forget to interact because in going out, I always want to have my headphones.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't have a mask as much as more, but it is something like I like, but it does take away that kind of human interaction. Even like you can't really see the smile. I mean, you can kind
Right.
of see cheeks go up.
Like ice. Yeah. But you could
Yeah.
just do this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I do definitely think that was something that impacted me as far as like, I kind of forgot how to interact with people after the
Yeah.
pandemic. Like, what are people supposed to do?
Yeah. See, and again, because I had kids, there still was some interaction going on. And we started like our mom friends would go, we were the ones in the trunks of our minivans all popped up. We'd bring our own dinners and like eating in a parking lot.
We'll start wrapping up now, but really just want to have an episode about friendship, the challenges that comes with an adulthood.
Mm-hmm. Maybe people could post in the comments what's the best thing they've served at a party.
Yes.
What's the best
great.
food?
Yeah.
What's a hit? Because maybe if Adrian's going to host a party again, we could get some ideas.
Yes.
I'm here for the biscuits.
Or if someone served you a biscuit at a party, would you take it?
Yes, a resounding yes.
Yes. Well, now,
I know. What was wrong with me?
19 years ago, you called me socially awkward.
But 3 years before that, I'm walking into parties as people are like dancing and who knows what, serving monkey bread.
Yeah.
So who did I think I was?
How rude.
Gosh.
But yes, thank you all for joining. Like, subscribe, and we will see you again in 2 weeks. Wishing you all peace, love, and power.
Bye.